Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and happy Friday the 13th. Now because it's Friday the 13th, I wanted to do something special, sort of a different kind of video that I've never done before. I figured I'd try to get into ranking certain movie franchises, especially movie franchises that have a ton of movies in them. So since we have a Friday the 13th this month, I thought it was the perfect opportunity to rank the Friday the 13th films. Now I'm not the biggest fan of this franchise. I think the majority of these movies are really bad. But there's still a few entertaining ones and enjoyable ones. I think Jason Voorhees is a really cool character to have. It's unfortunate that we have not gotten a new Friday the 13th movie in a very long time. The last time we got a Friday the 13th film was in 2009, and it was a remake of the first one. Now stay tuned because you may be surprised where I rank that 2009 remake. First, if you do not own this nice Friday the 13th box set, I highly recommend getting it. It's got such nice artwork that goes all the way around it. And then the movies are shown on the back here. This box set was released by Shout Factory a few years ago. I'm not quite sure when, but this set goes on sale a lot. So if you ever see it on sale, I highly recommend picking it up, even if you're not, like me, not big into the whole franchise and don't really care for most of them. It's still a really cool display on the shelf, and it comes with all the movies. So 2 of these are hard to find. If you buy like the regular Friday the 13th Blu-ray, like if you go into Walmart or any retail place, you'll get Friday the 13th most of the movies, but it will not include Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. I believe those sets actually end at Jason Takes Manhattan, so you won't get Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Freddy vs. Jason, or the Friday the 13th remake. There's also a bonus disc that comes with this that has a whole bunch of like documentary features and things like that. So you also won't get those in the ones that you buy for a cheaper price at like Walmart or Amazon. Again, this box set, don't buy it at full price. Full price is like $130. That's really crazy. That's not what it is when it goes on sale. When it goes on sale, it gets down to like $50. That's a much better deal. When I bought this set, I bought it for around that price. But I'd say $50 for all that's included in this box set, plus just the art of the box, is really worth that price. But anyways, let's get into the ranking. Starting off at very last, we have Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Now this movie is just straight up one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I did not enjoy this movie at all. Jason, like the actual Jason Voorhees, is only in this film for like the opening sequence. What this is, and I do respect them for trying something different, however it just did not work. What they did with this is it's like the demonic spirit of Jason possesses different humans on Earth and takes control of them. So the whole movie is just the spirit of Jason possessing these different people, and that's just not what I want in a Friday the 13th film. Most people go to see these movies to see Jason Voorhees. So to only have him in like the opening sequence is just really disappointing. He even had a really cool look to him at the beginning of this movie, so it would have been really cool to get a whole movie of that look. I know there is a whole bunch of people that actually like this movie. Over the years, it's kind of grown a cult following of people that do support it and like it. However, I'm just not one of those people. I think there's not even any characters in this movie that I can like remember. It's for sure one that I probably will never watch again. So yeah, nothing really memorable about this movie. No cool survivors that you can support or anything like that. Therefore, it ranks very last on my list. And coming in at number 11, we have Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. I will say this movie does have some enjoyable moments. It continues the story of an older Tommy Jarvis that was previously in Part 4. However, the direction they went with Tommy Jarvis just wasn't very good, in my opinion. This is also another one where Jason Voorhees isn't really in the film. Essentially what this is a copycat killer pretending to be Jason. I guess at the time it came out, it would have been like a twist towards the end that, oh, this isn't Jason Voorhees, this is just some dude pretending to be him. But overall, just like Jason Goes to Hell, it's not very memorable. The direction they went with Tommy Jarvis, I just didn't like. And for those reasons, it's number 11 on my list. At number 10, I have Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. While it does have one of the coolest posters, in my opinion, of the franchise, it's not a very good one. The big promo, whatever, of this movie is Jason Takes Manhattan. He's in Manhattan for about maybe 20 minutes. For the rest of the movie, he's pretty much just killing people on boats. So if you're looking forward to Jason being in a big city like it's advertised, that's not what you're going to get for the majority of the film. So while the last 20 minutes of the movie, when he finally gets to Manhattan, is pretty entertaining, everything before it is just kind of a blur. This does have one of my favorite iconic scenes from the franchises, however. It's a scene where one of the characters tries to punch Jason and he's just taking none of it. But besides that, in the last 20 minutes, this movie's kind of forgettable, and therefore it's number 10 on my ranking. At number 9, we have another kind of odd premise to do. This is Jason X. Now, Jason X is about Jason Voorhees going up in space in the future. This takes place in the year 2455. While it's not a great movie, it's actually really fun. For years, I have heard that people hated this movie and that it was just straight garbage. I decided to watch all the Friday the 13th one year so I could get a proper feel for every one of the movies, and I actually had a really good time with this one. It just ranks low on my list because it's not a very good movie. I know there's a 4K that was just released to this movie from Arrow Video, and I do look forward to picking that up. I probably won't get Jason Goes to Hell on 4K. They did release that along with it, but I really don't like that movie. The cover art for the 4K is really cool, but I don't think it's enough to spend $25 to $30 on it. But yeah, if you're looking for a fun space horror with Jason, this may be something to look at. So yeah, a fun time, but not a great movie, and therefore it's number 9 on my list. At number 8 on my ranking, I have Friday the 13th Part 3. This one is a really important film for the franchise because it was released in 3D, first of all, the Friday the 13th Part 3 3D, but it was also the first Friday the 13th film where Jason put on a hockey mask. Now, of course, everybody knows Jason Voorhees as the guy with the hockey mask, but it's very interesting, and I don't think a lot of people know this, but he doesn't get the mask until Part 3. Now, this one does have some interesting characters in it, and some great moments, but overall, it gets real boring sometimes, and I just think some of the other films that I put ahead on the ranking are more enjoyable to watch. I haven't seen this movie with actual 3D glasses, so I can't comment on how well the 3D is. I know this came out back in the 80s when 3D was brand new and they were throwing it in everything they could. But yeah, Friday the 13th Part 3 is number 8 on my ranking. At number 7 on my list, and this may shock a lot of people, I have the original Friday the 13th. Similar to what I said about Friday the 13th Part 3, it's just kind of really boring. It has a lot of memorable moments, and Adrienne King is a great final girl in this movie. She's one of the first original final girls in horror, so it's iconic just for that. I think this movie has a really cool twist to it, which everybody should know by now, so I'm going to spoil it, and hopefully you already know it. But the killer at the end of this is revealed to be Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mom. So Jason Voorhees isn't even in this movie, besides flashbacks of him drowning as a kid. But this film is still incredibly iconic in film history, not just in horror. There's so many other copies of this movie, some that have been done better, some that have been done worse, but they all originated from Friday the 13th. A super iconic film, but I think that there are a few better ones that are more enjoyable and have better characters. Therefore, the original Friday the 13th is number 7 on my ranking. And at number 6 on my ranking, I have Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Now, this movie is basically Jason Voorhees versus Carrie. That reason alone is enough for me to be interested in watching it. The girl in this movie has telekinesis powers similar to Carrie. That's why people refer to it as Jason versus Carrie. This is just a really fun, entertaining one. One of the most entertaining ones of the franchise. I've only seen this one once. I've seen a few of these more than once, but this one I've only seen once. But just from that one viewing, it was really entertaining and made me want to watch it again in the future. It's cool to see because at this point, Jason Voorhees in the franchise became a supernatural being. He was basically no longer human at this point. In Part 6, he was brought back to life after being killed in Part 4. So to, have a good matchup, they introduced telekinesis. So you have a telekinesis girl versus a supernatural being, and it's just a really fun, entertaining battle between the two. So yeah, Friday the 13th Part 7, otherwise known as Carrie vs. Jason, is number 6 on my ranking. At number 5, we're now entering the top 5, I have Friday the 13th Part 2. This is basically the first movie, just done better. The characters are a lot better. I feel like the flow is a lot better. The last 20 to 30 minutes are really good. This introduces Jason Voorhees, the adult Jason Voorhees, into the franchise. He goes on a revenge killing spree after his mom was killed in the first one. This movie is just a big step up from the first one. I feel like every time I rewatch these, that's the first thing that comes to mind, is just how it just feels like it's done so much better than the first one. I will say this movie starts with a flashback of the first movie. That's one thing I didn't like about the first 4 of these movies, is they always replay the ending to the movie that came before it for the first 10 minutes. So these movies are an hour and 30 minutes maybe shorter, an hour and 20. But really they're a lot shorter than that, because you could just skip the first 10 minutes, because if you're watching it or have seen the one before it, then you don't need to see those first 10 minutes. But other than that, this movie's pretty enjoyable, and that's why it's number 5 on my ranking. At number 4, this may be another controversial position on my ranking, but at number 4 I have Freddy vs. Jason. Now the reason I say this is controversial is because this movie's not a super great movie. You could probably say Part 2 is better than this one, but I just find it really fun and enjoyable. None of the characters in this movie really stand out. It's just fun seeing Freddy versus Jason. I love that this is in a way sort of like a Freddy movie, but it becomes a Jason movie. Freddy is no longer able to haunt kids like he used to be able to, so he basically manipulates Jason into going after and killing kids for him, so that Freddy can gain power back and then continue his haunting of these kids. I think that's a really fun way to do that, is having Freddy sort of manipulating Jason. In a way, Jason is actually the good guy in this movie and Freddy's the bad guy. I just think that's really fun. I think that's a really cool idea. And the whole battle scenes between Freddy and Jason is really fun to watch. And every year I watch this around Halloween, and I just really enjoy it. And because of that, it's number 5 on my ranking. And number 4, I have what's probably another controversial position on the ranking. I have Friday the 13th, the remake from 2009. I know this movie has a lot of mixed feelings about it. Some people hate it, some people love it. I'm more on the love it side. I think this is actually a really good remake, and I do think it's better than the original, which is a controversial take. People may get mad at me, but this movie is a lot more entertaining than the original. One thing I like about this remake is it's not a straight up copy of the first one. What it does is it just takes elements from the first one and basically the first 4 films, and puts it into one. So it takes ideas from those first 4 original films, and expands upon it and creates its own thing. If you haven't seen this remake or are reluctant to see it because it's a remake, I would highly recommend watching it. I think you're going to be surprised. I think this is one of the better remakes of a horror film. It's way better than the Nightmare on Elm Street remake that came out a year later than this. That Nightmare on Elm Street remake was just awful. I do not like that movie at all. But yeah, this is one of the best remakes that I've ever seen, and it's number 4 on my ranking. And at number 2, I have Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. Now this one is for sure one of the better ones of the entire franchise. This movie introduces Tommy Jarvis, who is played by a young Corey Feldman. He's one of the best characters in this entire franchise. This movie basically follows 2 separate things that are happening. The first one is a family that's living in a house next to a house that's being rented out by these kids. So you have Jason basically next door hunting these kids, and then you have the family with Tommy Jarvis. And of course eventually Jason gets mixed in with the family house, and so Tommy Jarvis and his sister fight back against Jason. This movie just for sure one of the most entertaining of the franchise. Definitely some of the best characters of the franchise. Tommy Jarvis for sure is the best character of the franchise, and you'll hear me talk about him more in my number 1 spot. But yeah, Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter is number 2 on my ranking. And at number 1, what is for sure, in my opinion, the best Friday the 13th movie, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. This movie is just so much fun. It's got a ton of like 80s vibes to it, and I think that's what really helped it. It was a new era of Jason because Jason had died in Part 4. So at this point, when it begins, he is dead. But Tommy Jarvis, now an older Tommy Jarvis, grown-up Tommy Jarvis, he's a little obsessed with Jason, and he has a lot of trauma and PTSD from the night when he killed Jason. He was just a little boy after all, so you can imagine the impact that would have. But after obsessing with Jason for so long, he goes back to his grave and digs him up. He wants to make sure that he's dead, but upon doing so, Jason gets shot with electricity during a storm, and that causes him to basically be zombified, whatever the word is, resurrected. And he's basically at this point a zombie. This is the beginning of Jason Voorhees as a supernatural being in the franchise. And from there on, it's sort of Tommy Jarvis trying to warn this town of people that Jason's alive and that he's coming back, and he's going back to the camp to kill more kids. Now, of course, nobody believes him. They think he's crazy. But then once it starts happening, they start believing him, and it's just really entertaining ride. I think another reason I really like this movie too is because it really reminds me of a Friday the 13th video game that came out like in the late 2010s. That game got super popular, and a ton of people were playing it. What you could do, or what the game was, is you had like it was an online game, so you played online with people, and you would have like 5 group of survivors, and then you would have one person playing Jason. And if you were playing Jason, your goal was to kill the other players, and if you were the survivors, then your goal was to escape. And there was multiple ways to escape. But anyways, if you got killed, you got to come back as Tommy Jarvis. I believe it was just the first person that got killed during a match. Then you got to come back as Tommy Jarvis. You got like 1 shotgun ammo, and you had some special abilities you could do to try to hurry up the process of escaping. So the game clearly took a lot of inspiration from this one, because Jason is also supernatural in that game, and I think that's another reason why I like this so much, is because it just reminds me of that game. This movie also has Alice Cooper on the soundtrack. There's like several songs. He even did a song specifically for this movie, and I love Alice Cooper, so that's another reason. This is just for sure, without a doubt, the most entertaining one. If you have not seen any Friday the 13th movie, and you want to watch but you don't want to watch them all, just watch this one. This one I would recommend to anybody. It's a really, really good one. But it's kind of crazy that it took 6 movies for this franchise to finally get one that's like super good. But they did with this one, Part 6, really fun movie. And because of those reasons, it's number 1 on my list. And that's it. That's my ranking for all the Friday the 13th movies, plus Freddy vs. Jason, if you count that as a Friday the 13th movie. It's in this box set, so I count it as one. I hope you enjoyed this ranking video. It's different than the other videos I usually do. I want to start making more videos like this. I figured with videos I do with like physical media haul and movie collection updates, then I'd use the background with all my movie collection shelves. And then videos like this, where it's like a ranking, or like my Letterboxd reviews, then I'll use this background. I like the posters I have in the background, so I think it's a cool, background for this kind of stuff. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps a lot. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you stick around for my other ones. And I'll see you in the next one.